Hello, this is Roger Weston. This is The Rundown. I'm going to talk today about lessons of a lumberjack. Many people know me as a writer of thriller novels, but that's not all I've done. I was a lumberjack for 8 years, and I just wanted to share with you some of the lessons I learned uh, working and living in the woods for 8 years as a lumberjack. Uh, and if this is for real men. And if that's an offensive idea, this isn't the video for you. So, because this is for real men. So that's what it is. Lessons of a lumberjack. Because in my experience, working in the woods is a manly job. It's a brutal hard work. It's brutal hard work, and you have to love it. I mean, that's the first lesson. You've got to love to get out there and just get dirty and filthy and work like one of the slaves that the Egyptians used to build the pyramids, where they whip them and they force them, they work them until they're ready to fall and collapse in exhaustion. That's the kind of job this is, to be a lumberjack. The only difference is there is no Egyptian there to whip you and to strangle you if you fail. No, you have to be your own slave master, and you better be more ruthless against yourself than any Egyptian is, because when you're a woodcutter and a lumberjack, you're talking about hard work, and there's no limit to the hard work, except when you finish the job. And you're carrying 200-pound log rounds of wood. I was in the firewood business, so that's the kind of lumberjack I was. I was in the firewood business. I would cut and deliver sometimes 2-3 cords a day, sometimes 1 cord a day. Uh, and that starts with cutting down the tree, cutting it up, splitting it, loading it, delivering it, unloading it, stacking it, and then going back and redoing it. So it's you have to be. There's no time. There's no time for wimps. The second rule is never complain. Never ever complain. I don't think I ever complained in 8 years. I don't think I. If I did, it was probably because I complained about my truck. So you know that was because I abused my truck. Couldn't take the work all. It was too brutal on my truck too. So it wasn't a well-paying job. But anyway, never complain about the hard work. You've got to love the hard work. You've got to get out there and strain to the limits of your ability without injuring yourself. Okay, you have to know what you can take, and don't go and strain your back to the point where you can't finish the job. And I mean, then of course you've defeated yourself. So you never complain. Uh, you have to love the work. The third lesson is never hire wimps. Most of the guys that used to work for me were tough guys. These guys loved it. They were not wimps at all. They would go out there, and they absolutely were out there to kill it. They would work without. There was some complaining. I mean, there were definitely times where, look, they didn't want to carry out the biggest rounds. So what you do is you just go, okay, you give them the easy jobs. You go, all right, you go, you carry out those little rounds. I'll carry out the big ones, the 200-pound ones, the monsters. And sometimes they have to be split in half, so you can carry them out if they're too big. But fine, I love the big ones. It's good exercise. So you carry out the big ones, but for the most part, you don't hire wimps. You don't hire wimps for a job like this, because let's face it, nobody, they shouldn't be out there. But most of the guys that used to work for me, they pretty much loved it, and they were tough guys. Always be alert. If you aren't alert in the woods in a job like that, it could cost you your hand. It could cost you your face. It could cost you fingers. It could cost you your leg. It could cost you your life. Absolutely. In fact, being a lumberjack is one of the most dangerous jobs, and I've certainly had my own life. I mean, within millimeters of losing my life to flying vine maples, to falling trees, to chainsaws. There's so many ways to suffer and die in the woods, and I was always very alert. And in cutting hundreds and hundreds of cords of wood, I never had an accident. I knew one guy. He went out there to get in the business, and within his first week, he completely mutilated his hand on his chainsaw. His chainsaw, I don't know what happened, but his hand looked like a piece of pizza with, just tomato sauce. And he was in the hospital, and he was out of business. And I don't know if his hand was ever the same after that. But I never had an accident with the chainsaw, although I certainly had some close calls. That's for sure. But I was always alert. I was always very alert to the danger of a chainsaw. I know of someone who's had their face, not from me, but I know of someone who had their face hit with a chainsaw right along the chin. Fortunately, that was an unfortunate accident of somebody who swung a chainsaw, didn't know what was happening around them, and made a mistake. And fortunately, it wasn't a fatal mistake. But that's the kind of danger you face. Falling trees, if they fall the wrong way, if they split in half and it's like whoosh, like this, whoosh. If that hits you, half of the tree splits and hits you. Not only is it going to, like you're going to be a baseball hit with a baseball bat, and that could be deadly. So you have to. I know we had a lumberjack over to my house for dinner one time. The guy was missing fingers because he had lost fingers. I had a relative who lost a leg as a lumberjack. One of my, I don't know, he's an uncle, great uncle or something like that, lost a leg. This is a guy who was a very tough guy. He ran a marathon in work boots. That's how tough this guy was. But he lost a leg. And that's very common. You can lose. You got to be alert. That's a key lesson here. Be alert. And I'll try to pick up the pace here. Be a master of the forest. You got to know how to fall a tree. You got to know the trees. You got to know how they're going to respond to what their angles are, how they're going to respond to what size, to whatever size cut you make and whatever angle of cut you make. You need to know how to avoid getting killed. And you need to know how to solve all the problems that are going to come up in the woods. Problems, you need to be prepared. Sharpen that saw blade before you get out there. It'll make everything go a lot better, much smoother. And bring your file with you in case you need to sharpen it again. Bring a spare axe handle. You're going to probably need it when you're cutting through, splitting an entire cord in 5 minutes. I've been told that was impossible, but we used to do that all the time. Fortunately, it was older. Check your gas can before you leave. You don't want to show up and then realize you don't have enough gas. And maintain your road. You can't go out into the woods on a road in a rainstorm. And where I was cutting wood, that was daily. There was rainstorms. You can't go out there, especially with a 2-wheel drive, but even with a 4-wheel drive, and you've got ruts through the woods, and it's a rainstorm, and you're just going to go out there hauling out of there with a 4-wheel. You're going to get your truck stuck. So you got to maintain your road. You're going to have to go out there and put gravel down on a regular basis. Fill those ruts with gravel so that you still might get stuck, but at least your odds are a little better. So maintain your road so you can get out of the woods, even if it's some kind of desperation sprint in your truck. Hauling through those ruts with a massive, a load, a full cord of wood, pounding down on those springs every time you hit a big hole in the trail. You might make it if you maintain your road. You might make it, and if not, you're going to have a tow truck come, or you're going to have winch it out of there somehow. But better to maintain your road. All right, there you go. There's 7 lessons of the lumberjack. Lessons that can certainly save your life in the woods and can be adapted to other situations as well. Thanks for watching. Fight on.